One of the greatest players and people in NBA history is undoubtedly Bill Russell, the 11-time champion and Celtics great. And Russell, he's one of those rare players who on and off the court, his approval rating was at 99.9%. And that's why today's story, it's a pretty odd one. As longtime NBA journeyman and Benchwarmer Udonis Haslem, it was revealed he said F Bill Russell in a game in the East Finals when playing the Celtics. Now, saying F Bill Russell in any context, I'm not the biggest fan of it. And even providing context for Udonis Haslem, it doesn't make him look any better as a player, person, a leader, or a veteran. And Udonis' main beef, it's not even really with Bill Russell, it's with the NBA. As back in 2023, league-wide the NBA retired the number 6. Apparently Udonis Haslem that pissed him off, sent him over the edge, and made him say, F Bill Russell. Now, what's funny about that, the Miami Heat Raptors aren't the most sacred place in the NBA like the Boston Raptors or the Lakers Raptors before the in-season tournament. The Heat's Raptors, they've retired Michael Jordan's jersey, Wizards and Bulls, at their own arena. And even worse than that, they retired Dan Marino's jersey despite Marino never playing basketball or playing for the Heat. So again, Udonis Haslem treating the Heat's Raptors like some sacred place where NBA legend Bill Russell can't have a jersey retired, again, is pretty odd and downright perplexing. And I'll give Udonis some benefit of the doubt. If he said he hates Celtics fans, their owner, coach, whatever, that's fair game, go ahead and say that. But to say F Bill Russell, who had already passed away, I mean, have some class, some respect for one of the great players in NBA history. And the silver lining for the story is pretty simple, because Bill Russell once again is brought up into public consciousness. And looking at Russell the player, the winner, the champion, his impact in Boston was simply immense. As looking at him as a rookie, his rookie impact was one of the biggest of all time, but unfortunately is rarely mentioned with the likes of Magic, Jordan, Bird, LeBron, etc. As looking at Boston pre-Russell, they were a decent above-average team that made some great playoff runs, but in the 10 years prior, had only 1 year winning above 45 games and made a total of 0 finals. And despite Cousy being an MVP, having perennial All-Stars, Boston still couldn't get over the hump to be NBA champions. Now, looking at Russell's defensive impact in 1957, his first year in Boston, their defensive rating was 84.0, which ranked first out of 8 teams. For some context, the previous year it was 91.7, in the bottom half of the NBA in 55, 93.0, 54, 90, and 53, 89.3. Boston pre-Russell not once was in the top half of the best defensive teams in the entire NBA. And it's no coincidence, you add Bill Russell even as a rookie, your defense skyrockets, and immediately you're at championship contenders. And looking at that year's NBA Finals, in large part due to Russell, they won that Game 7 in Boston because of a rookie. And when discussing NBA history, the greatest Game 7s, greatest rookie performances, we think of Magic Johnson 1980, playing center, scoring 42 points, which was amazing. But Russell in this Game 7, also as a rookie, one of the best games of all time that is never mentioned. As in total, he had 19 points, 32 boards, a Game 7 record, 2 assists on 41.2% shooting. And this Game 7 versus the Hawks in the Boston Garden went to double OT. And the fourth quarter, Russell, who wasn't a great offensive player, had the game-tying layup and immediately turned around, sprint down the court, and the game-setting block as time expired. That play by Russell, in essence, was the OG chase-down block. Nearly 70 years later, are there any blocks that single-handedly saved the championship? I can't think of one. Now, the final score of this game was a whopping 125-123. And looking at Russell's so-called super team, his Hall of Fame backcourt, Bill Sharman and Bob Cousy shot a combined 5 of 40. Yes, 5 of 40 in a Game 7 that Boston still won. Now, skipping all the way ahead to 1969, Bill Russell's last championship, I believe, was his most impressive. As for Russell and Boston that year, that was their last dance like Jordan's Bulls. And historically speaking, this Celtics team, ranked among NBA champions, is second oldest ever behind the 98 Bulls, the second lowest seed ever win a championship, being the 4th seed on the 95 Rockets, and have the second fewest wins ever for a championship team at 48, one ahead of that same Rockets team from 1995. And if you look at Boston's playoff competition, of course, there were only 3 rounds, but despite that, the competition was still pretty damn tough. As in the first round, they beat the Philadelphia 76ers, won 55 games, the second round the Knicks won 54, and the finals the Lakers, who also won 55. If you take those overall records, look at the win percentage, it's a staggering 66.7%, which all-time ranks 7th all-time, one of the most difficult championships in NBA history. And to add some context, Boston in the finals actually was down 3-2 and forced a Game 7 in Los Angeles. And looking at that Game 7, Bill Russell had 6 points, 21 boards, played all 48 minutes, which at age 35, back then being more like 45, is an absolute miracle. And actually it was pretty shocking to see. In Bill Russell's final 11 games of his career in the NBA playoffs, he played every single minute, every single second of all those games. In those games, kind of found the fountain of youth, averaging 13 points, 21 boards, 5 assists on 43% shooting. Bill Russell's last championship, being a player coach at age 35, having the oldest roster in the NBA, the lowest playoff seed. To win that title was simply remarkable. And the last thing I do want to show you guys is Boston, the next year minus Russell, in 1970. As despite adding JoJo White, a future Hall of Famer All-Star player, Boston that year fell from the best defensive team in the league all the way down to 8th out of 14 teams. Looking at their net rating, they went from 2nd to 8th, opponents points per game, 2nd to 7th, and overall wins from 48 to 34, missing the playoffs. And pretty important note, since 1970, only one of their team, being the defending champions, missed the playoffs the year after winning a championship. That team being the Bulls in 1999. And to go full circle in this video, once again looking back at Udonis Haslem, his overall statements in context, out of context, I'm not really a fan of. As again, saying F Bill Russell, he's one of the guys you just simply don't say that about. And if these comments remain private, say them in the Heat huddle, look, I'm fine with that. But to broadcast this publicly out there a couple years later, not the biggest fan of it. So, as always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.